What's going on, Bulls fans? Coming up on today's edition of the Bulls Report by Chat Sports, we're going to be diving into the idea of the Bulls trading for Mike Conley. Yes, Mike Conley. Bleacher Report suggested that Mike Conley could be an ideal trade target for the Chicago Bulls, so I'll be diving into that and giving you guys my thoughts. And then I decided, hey, let's have some fun today. Let's take a trip down memory lane, and we are going to revisit Derrick Rose's MVP season. I might shed a tear, diving into all of his best games and everything. So stay tuned for that. That's what we're going to be doing on today's edition of the Bulls Report. But I must say, we are in a sub battle with our Heat Report channel here, and we're doing subs this month. And right now, we have kind of dug ourselves a hole. We have 78 subscribers gained this month. Our Heat Report channel has 102. So, hey, if you guys are a diehard Bulls fan and this is your first time coming across our channel, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button. Help us beat the Heat Report in subs. Really goes a long way here at Chat Sports. So subscribe and lock us in. Let's talk about it. Mike Conley, could he potentially be traded to the Chicago Bulls? Yeah, Bleacher Report had suggested that as an ideal trade target for Chicago. This is actually what they had to say. They said the Bulls have yet to fill their Lonzo Ball-sized hole at the point guard position. They have several candidates for the gig: Jevon Carter, Ayo Dosunmu, and Coby White, but none are surefire solutions. This could wind up being the basketball equivalent of the NFL cliche that when you have two quarterbacks, you really have none. I actually do think that's an interesting point Bleacher Report made, but I do in general trust the Bulls guards this next season. I get you have a lot of cooks in the kitchen with Ayo, Jevon Carter, and Coby White, but I do think all three of those guards complement each other very, very well. Like, I think what Jevon Carter brings defensively kind of masks some of Coby White's defensive inefficiencies. And then I think Ayo Dosunmu, I don't really necessarily consider Ayo a true point guard. I think Ayo's best fit is kind of being in that Bruce Brown role, kind of hyper-athletic shooting guard that can really guard the 1 and 2 positions in the NBA at the highest level. So I get what they're saying on you don't really want to have, too many cooks in the kitchen or have two quarterbacks if you're comparing it to the NFL. But overall, I would trust the Bulls point guard spot as it stands right now. Bleacher Report did carry on to say this. They said, with the clock ticking to make something happen with this core, Chicago could still be in need of an upgrade at the lead guard spot. An on-court orchestrator like Conley, who averages 5.7 assists and 2 turnovers in his career, might be the pass-first piece needed to bring this roster together the way a healthy Lonzo Ball once did. And listen, Mike Conley was great in his prime. He was one of the best point guards in the NBA in terms of just being a true point guard. But I wouldn't compare him to Lonzo's impact, because what Lonzo did that was so special was what he did in transition for the Bulls that year, what he did defensively for the Bulls that season. I understand that maybe Mike Conley, you would bring him in right now, and he would be a very solid addition to this team. But I don't know if he would move the needle like a guy like Lonzo Ball does. That's why I'm still kind of out on the idea of trading for Mike Conley, just because mainly I do love what the Bulls already have. And there's no doubt, Conley is a true veteran in the NBA. In terms of just, a clock in, clock out guy, that's Mike Conley. Mike Conley, if you give him a task, he's going to get it done, even though he is a little past his prime. I still think he's got a little, left in the tank. But, overall, I would rather have the Bulls kind of develop Coby and Ayo. See what you have there instead of bringing in a veteran, because, hey, you bring in Mike Conley, he's not the same defensive player that he was a couple years ago. So you're going to have to, if you add him next to Levine and DeRozan, the Bulls could be looking at one of the worst defensive backcourts in the league, where in comparison, where if you would run, even a guy like Caruso or even a guy like Jevon Carter, you have one of the better defensive backcourts in the league. So I'll ask you guys, this would be the pinned comment on today's video, would you trade for Mike Conley? Give me a Y for yes, or give me an N for no down in the comment section. YouTube, they're going to throw an ad break your way. It always happens. Go down, answer today's pinned comment, and when you're done, scroll right back on up, and you'll see my answer. If you guys can already kind of guess it, I would pass. I'm just not the biggest fan of this idea. Listen, Mike Conley in his prime, great. One of the best players, or best point guards we've seen in the modern day NBA. Really fun to watch back in his days in Memphis. but I'd be out. He's past his prime, and I do want to see what the Bulls have in Io, Javon Carter, and Kobe White. That's where I want the Bulls to focus at that backcourt spot. Do want to give a huge shout out to our sportsbook sponsor, BetUS, before we hop into the latest, or not latest, around D Rose, until we hop down memory lane with Derrick Rose. And if you guys head to chatsports.com/bet and use promo code CHAT125, you'll get a 125% deposit bonus. That means you put $100 into your account, they'll give you $125 free to spend. You guys can go bet on the Bulls. Their over-under right now is 37.5. You guys can go bet on that over if you're confident in this team in this upcoming year. But head to chatsports.com/bet. Use that promo code CHAT125. Let's do it. Let's take a trip down memory lane. This feels like it was so long ago, man. This is, man, I just love standing next to D Rose right here. It's just a great sight to see. I mean, this was one of my proudest moments, I guess, as a Bulls fan. My favorite moment was D Rose's MVP season, the hometown kid, the youngest MVP in NBA history. I mean, he grew up a Bulls fan. He grew up in the city of Chicago, and in his third year in the NBA, he wins an MVP for his hometown. I just think it was one of the coolest accomplishments that any player has ever had in their career. But let's take a trip down memory lane. So that year, D Rose, he did average 25 points a night, 4.1 rebounds, and he was an assist god. He averaged 7.7 assists with 44.5% from the deck. And he was so good that he led the Bulls to the top of the Eastern Conference. The Bulls won 62 games this year. 62 games. That was incredible. Even being led by a 6'3" hyper-athletic point guard. The accomplishments for D Rose that year were incredible. But also just taking a look at this Eastern Conference, like, pretty funny to see that you got like the Orlando Magic with 50-plus wins, like the Atlanta Hawks even up there. But then look at the Indiana Pacers as the 8th seed that year, where the Bulls absolutely mobbed on them in round one of the playoffs. They won 37 games. 37 games and made the playoffs that season. But with the Bulls, Heat, and Celtics atop of the East, man, it was good times back in 2011. But back in the 2011 playoffs, D Rose upped his game. I mean, he went from 25 points a night to 27. Still averaged around the same amount of assists and rebounds. But again, he was also great defensively. Like, I think that gets undervalued when talking about Derrick Rose's, peak of his career, where he was that hyper-athletic kind of a, combo guard that really brought it on both sides of the court. Obviously, the efficiency in the playoff did take a step back, but this was his, obviously the game slows down in the playoffs, but like his abilities to still be that like hyper athletic combo guard archetype and still average 27 plus in the playoffs, I think it just speaks to how truly talented he was. And he really was just a special, special player. Like, the way he would move at 6'3", has this 45-inch vertical, like, man, prime D Rose, like, you really kind of get a loss for words, when just talking about him, because like you can't really kind of undervalue how important that year was just for the Bulls franchise. Like, the Bulls struggled going from Michael Jordan, really had nothing going well for him up until they did draft D Rose, and then obviously D Rose was part of this group, and he completely changed it. So he was an absolute special talent that year. And here are just a couple of his games that really stood out to me. I think the best game that he had that year was it was against the Atlanta Hawks in round 2 of the NBA playoffs. The series was tied at 1-1, and D Rose went out and dropped 44 points, 7 assists, and 5 rebounds. But a couple other games that stood out in the regular season to me, I remember the 2 games against the Clippers. Those are both coming off losses, and I remember D Rose just took over those games, absolutely balled out. I mean, almost having triple-doubles in both of those. But a game against the Spurs, this was his regular season career high at the time. And keep this in mind, he was 21 years old doing this. 21 years old, putting up stat lines like this. Just absolutely incredible. But more on that game against the Atlanta Hawks. This is what actually Jeff Teague, after the game, like I said, it was 1-1. Series tied 1-1. Back in Atlanta. Atlanta stole a game on the road in Chicago. Huge big-time game for the Bulls. And D Rose drops 44 in his career high. Just speaks to like kind of that moxie and that clutch gene he had. And this is what Jeff Teague had to say. He said, he's a tough cover anyways. Yeah, he's coming at you full speed. It's tough to stay in front of him. But when his shot is falling, he's the MVP. And I think that sums up his game so perfectly, especially during that year, where his athleticism put so much pressure on you as a defender, where you kind of had to play on your heels a little bit. But then when he was able to get that shot falling, like, there really was no answer to guarding him. Because if you back up and you say shoot your jumper and he's knocking it down, there's not much you can do. But if he's hitting his jumper and you got to step up on him, then he can just blow right by you because he was the most athletic point guard we have ever seen in NBA history. I'll take him over a guy like Westbrook, De'Aaron Fox, any day of the week in terms of athleticism. But, guys, I do want to close the show with this by just showing the hometown kid. The 6'3" guard out of Chicago. God, I miss hearing that in the United Center. But show Derrick Rose some love. Type 1 down in the comments section. Hey, if this video gets multiple thousands of views, I want to see thousands of ones down in the comments section. But a little programming alert also before we hop out of here. Our Raiders channel, we do a lot of NFL stuff here at Chat Sports as well. My man Mitchell Renz is actually getting a tattoo right now live on the Raiders Report. So if you guys want to check it out, head to youtube.com/Raiders Report. See what goes down. They're also going to be playing a Madden game, Raiders versus Saints. It's all live. He's going to be spending about 8 hours today, I think it is. And I think actually the ink is going on right now when you're seeing this video. So, hey, tune in. Head to youtube.com/Raiders Report. But thank you guys so much for watching today's edition of the Bulls Report. We'll see you guys next time. Go Bulls.